Hey Chelsea, this is looking great. It's coming along great. Every time I see it, I feel like it's gotten a little bit stronger and everything. So I love this. I'll talk about that in a bit, but I'll focus right now on this thing. I appreciate your notes, um, letting me know your thoughts and everything. That's great. So, um, there's sometimes, so this, there's something about this pelvis rotation. It feels like a little too isolated, I think. So I don't know what I'm struggling. Obviously, I'm sure you can hear that. I'm struggling to like understand why. I think it's just because it's like put it forward. Okay, so I'm just giving you an idea to try, right? I love this pose and I love this pelvis rotation here, right? I think that's fantastic. I'm just staring at this pelvis rotation because I feel like it's kind of like the sharpest, quickest thing maybe moving right now. So maybe delay that pelvis rotation. Like we're getting into this pose, the pelvis rotation should be finished by this pose, but maybe start it here and have it take like those 10 frames to like fully rotate, because it seems to kind of rotate across fewer frames and then kind of like get there. So maybe it just needs to be like layered in or overlapped or something a little bit more. Maybe I'm going back against some note I gave you previously, and if that's the case, sorry about that. But this is looking, this lean forward and catching with the foot is looking good. I think all the right concepts are there. I would just watch your spacing, because it feels like, man, I'm gonna have to really zoom in on this. So maybe this is like super nitpicky. Didn't mean to do that. Maybe this is super nitpicky. But I feel like the horizontal spacing kind of settle down and die a little bit, and then it resumes again. And I kind of feel like it should be a little bit more regular, or at least like increasing speed until this foot gets planted, the red foot. So maybe lessen it here. You know what I mean? Lessen it here. Have the spaces between these be like pretty, like progressively growing all throughout this until that foot plants. And then when that foot plants, that's when we need a little ease out on that forward stuff. Because right now it just, that foot plants and it stops. So just that section, have it as the character leans forward, they're gaining more and more momentum on that lean. This is nitpicky stuff. And then when the foot plants, it catches it, but it doesn't like stop it instantly 100%. It like has a little ease out or whatever from there. That's a tiny thing, but you know, it's really gonna help. I love the down and then the forward. I think that's great. If you can, I think with just this frame, get it more of a horizontal in between this one and this one. If I'm just feeling that corner a little bit between the down and the forward, where I kind of want to feel it just as like a slight swoop. It's, again, that's super nitpicky stuff, but I think it'll help out a lot. And then this launch is really cool. See if there's something you can do to maybe straighten this leg. Of course, there's something you can do. You could just like lower this heel a little bit, you know, but this push off, like if this leg is almost straight, it doesn't have to be totally straight, but if it's almost straight, it's going to communicate like the power of that. Oh, yeah. And here it's kind of straight too. So I think that's the thing to do, is get it a little bit straighter in the frame before by lowering the heel. This is a great straight one, but if I'm watching, like watch the spacing of your foot. I know there's a million things to watch as far as spacing goes, but your foot goes from here to here in one frame and then here in one frame. I think maybe this frame, you know, we want to bias it back more. You know what I mean? Like it's got to be, so then here it's like accelerating in its horizontal speed, you know, which will probably help transition from this like straight leg to this bent leg here a little bit nicer. Is just if this foot is brought back in space a little bit to favor the previous position. And then go through all of this and check your foot spacing, because this one feels, when I say this one, I mean this one feels like it's closer to this one, and then it gets farther when maybe it should be more. And I know this is going to affect like your passing pose a little bit, but it'll make it feel like it's like smoother when you watch the animation play, and the spacing's a little more locked down. It's fine for this to be kind of almost the same as this. I think that's fine. Yeah, cool. If you want, this leg could be slightly bent. It doesn't have to be fully, but it doesn't bother me. Also make sure that you're like rotating your pelvis to reach with the legs. Like I kind of expect to see a little bit more of the back side of the pelvis, like here in this one. And of course, all the same spacing notes go for the back foot. I'm just focusing on the red one, but hopefully the concepts are clear. Yeah, that's great. So yeah, I'm just going to focus on the red foot for this, just because both feet I think would be a little bit of redundancy. This is cool. You get the straight leg here. Maybe this one you can start, because here, that's fine. There's no problem with that spacing, but there's a huge jump there. We kind of linger in this back area a little bit. So maybe this foot, you know, and also you got to keep like some kind of rotation going where it's not always the same angle of rotation and stuff. Maybe this foot could be like more here, and then this foot would be more here, so that this foot, you could even push this foot forward. But yeah, just watch like the spacing of how the foot is moving forward on these strides, you know what I mean? That's great. I think I would rotate a little bit here, because the leg feels like it kind of snaps straight. And then here, I think I would bring this foot, if you can, see how, if you can bring it back in space, you know, and leave it planted here, because then the spacing here is going to feel better. You know, again, like, I feel like here you got to watch the spacing on your center of gravity. It just kind of jumps forward. It feels like from here to here it kind of jumps forward a lot. That feels pretty equidistant to that, so that, you know, that's not necessarily bad, but when it goes from here to here, it feels like maybe we need to start earning that spacing. So maybe this one gets nudged over a little bit more, you know, and this one gets nudged over a little bit more, to make it feel like that spacing's growing. And all this stuff is tedious. But anyways, back to the foot. Yeah, so you can see how it goes from there to there. That's like a massive jump. So maybe here to here isn't so bad, but maybe here we can start bringing that foot forward, so that this is still going to be smaller. This one's smaller than this one, but it'll help it flow a little bit better. And then, you know, we're going here, and that spacing looks more or less pretty good. Maybe that means you need to nudge that one back just a hair or something, or maybe this one needs to be forward a little bit more. I don't know. But you gotta like play with it, see what works for you, see what makes it look. Yeah. I think here, try to like, if this foot is kind of like down instead of up, it may be just a slightly stronger pose as you go up into this pose. This is looking great. Yeah, and maybe for this foot, leave it kind of down and back like that too. You can maybe leave this leg straighter a little bit longer, just for like another, yeah, maybe leave it straighter on this frame before you start bending it up into that. Oh, I love how the arms got clear of the body. That's fantastic. Yeah, try to push. I think you could afford to push this a little bit more to be just kind of more like a little bit more extreme. So like bend the knee more, get the foot more tucked up towards the pelvis and stuff before you have to like swing it through. Because then, you know, then you're swinging it through kind of like this, and I think that that'll be, I mean, I'm not saying these are the perfect angles or anything, but then it'll swing through nicer and to get it like over the hurdle and under the wall. Because then I think the spacing may be like a little nicer. You know, if it goes from here, kind of like more down like there, you know, like you got to watch the spacing as that foot passes through. Anyways, nitpicky stuff. Nitpicky stuff. I'm going to take a look again at like, overall, I think your arms are working great. They're a little stroby though, so I'll give you, I'll see if there's any advice I can give you. When I say stroby, it means like they're kind of flashing forward and back, and I'm not, like my eye is struggling to kind of like make a continuous motion out of them. Yeah, okay, so what is going on? And this is probably the least important compared to like the feet and what the center of gravity is doing. So we're going from here to here. Let me turn off ghosting for a sec. To here, all that seems fine. But then they seem to kind of hang out in this back pose. You know what I mean? I kind of feel like when this, so when this leg is at its most back position, that's when this arm should be at its most front position. And that's, it looks like that's what you're doing. It feels like this arm is already at its front position and starting to head back. But I think maybe, okay, so, and maybe you're responding to a note I gave earlier because, you know, like even spacing on that arm swing is not good. So what we want to do, what ideally we want to do, is we want to have more tighter spacing there and then increase the spacing and then, like, you know, have it tighter on both ends and quicker in the middle. So maybe that's what you're doing here, but I feel like we got to start moving forward a little bit here, you know, where it's like as the passing pose happens on the feet, this is almost like the passing pose on the arm. It doesn't have to be exact, but you know, it feels like the arm's a little delayed in getting forward there. And then maybe, you know, because you're moving it forward sooner, maybe that can give us a couple extra closer spacing arm poses here before it has to go back. And then here with it in the back pose, I love this back pose. Maybe we can push it to be a little bit more extreme since this is like right before the jump. But it also, the spacing wise, it doesn't really ease into this extreme or ease out of this extreme. So maybe we can have a little more like eases close to this extreme. and then have it go to this extreme like a little bit faster. So maybe if, you know, this pose needs to be biased back a little bit more. This one is like just where we're starting to notice it coming forward. This is the passing pose, so this isn't so bad. So it's just about like getting a little bit more at the beginning and the end of the arm swing. Hopefully that doesn't run too contrary to what I said before, or that's understandable. Hopefully it just reinforces what I said before. But yeah, I love the arms in this bit on the jump, really strong. I would maybe keep them if you can. I know that maybe it would mean that you would have to twist the torso a little bit too much, but it'd be pretty cool if you could keep the arms kind of like this, but maybe you can't. But maybe you could, but maybe you can't. I don't know. If you can, that'd be cool. But if not, that's fine too. But maybe like the arms, maybe if you twist this upper torso a little bit, hopefully that twist is reading, then, you know, it's easier to keep the arms out. But this is fine too here for this jump. Let's see what your reference was doing in this bit. Yeah, so I feel like your reference has the same twist that I'm trying to draw, where we're kind of seeing a lot of the back, but maybe we can also see a little bit of the front. Maybe I'm misreading that. It's a black shirt, hard to tell. I don't know, and if it feels like it's blowing stuff up or making things like impossible, then ignore it, because it's not like mission critical or anything. But maybe we can keep that twist in there. I don't know. This is great. This little leap down and everything looks really strong. Yeah, I think that's all I got for this. I'll take a look at your parkour thing. Just from first glance, this looks awesome. This looks like a lot of work. I don't know if you're switching. I know that you're talking about switching to FK, IK. But what I love is this anticipation here. The one, I don't know if you want this level of specificity on notes, but I'll just let you know my thoughts. Anything you can do to kind of unstack this arm right here would be great. So even if you want to like twist it in so we see like a little bit of the hand here, right? That would be a good solution. Or you could twist it out where maybe we're seeing like a little bit of the hand here, but just so that like the hand doesn't disappear and it just looks like a nub of an arm, like we want to try to describe that whole thing. Okay, so in this pose from here to here, this is like your center of gravity, right? It goes like screen left, and I think that I really like how it's going screen right the whole time. So I'd maybe just keep it at least the same in its screen rightness. Then here, like it just drops down instead of down and to the left, because I think that'll just make it like kind of flow smoother. Now in the reference, if you look, like the center of gravity on this guy is like holding pretty still for this bit. So maybe that's something you want to consider doing, but because here it jumps pretty far over. So maybe you can bring this more left to have it more still, and like so the weight's still a little more evenly distributed between these 2 feet at this point. Yeah, but this is cool. But what I like, so what I want to see here, no, that's fine. I would maybe rotate the pelvis here to be a little bit more straight on camera to emphasize more of like a twist. It really feels here like the top of his body is doing that, and the bottom, as far as like the twisting of like this, that kind of angle twist, the horizontal twist, you know. So I feel like your shoulders are lined up this way. Maybe the pelvis can be a little bit more like square to camera, so we're showing a little bit more of that twist. Yeah, cool. I like what you've done with this arm to like keep it up and try to, I bet we can just keep this free of the silhouette of the head with just a tiny elbow adjustment. But also maybe twist that back to keep the torso maybe a little bit more open like this. You know, get like a little nicer shape, or at least like raise up the clavicle there to get that arm up. There's something awkward about that shoulder. I mean, I know we're dealing with pardon me, like a boxy character, so it's not like 100%. This is where everything just goes crazy with what that guy's doing. The footwork's really interesting to watch on what he's doing, and you have it represented well. Man, I love this line of action here in this frame. So try to recreate that as much as possible, like trying to get that. So it might mean arcing the torso back a little bit and like getting a little bend on this arm with the elbow. Even if you bend it in a way where it doesn't normally bend, like this foot is fine. You could start picking the heel. You could start rolling it, you know what I mean? That is a horrible drawing, but hopefully it makes sense. Like we're seeing a little bit more of the sole of the foot because it's like leaned. But yeah, really try to capture that line of action. It's really cool. And then, you know, maybe this foot is cranked too much that way, so we would see less sole of it. It's hard to tell in the reference because of the motion blur, but that just looks like an awkward angle for the ankle. Again, really cool. Really cool stuff. So maybe push. Yeah, this looks great. Maybe nothing. So I assume like here are your FK arms and here, I'm sorry, here are your FK and here are your IK arms, and you're doing that switch. Since that's kind of like what you wanted to focus on, did that cause you any issues, or do you need any help with that? Like, let me know if that was simple and understandable, or if it feels like a little strange. Maybe pull that arm a little bit out to get a little bit more negative space between the legs and stuff. Just look for little ways you can plus and improve the posing. Yeah. And then of course you're switching back from FK to IK. It's fine. There's a way to work on these twists like this tootsie rolling that this character does all the time. There's like an arm twist thing on both the clavicle control, I think that's where it is, up here, and then there's another one for the lower. There's like two things that you could play with to try to work that twist out. Yeah, anyways. Like here's maybe a good opportunity to like cheat. By cheat I mean like deviate from the reference a little bit, like bring that arm maybe up and out a little bit from the body so it doesn't look like he's grabbing his knee. And this hand pose feels a little bit busted. It looks like we're seeing the palm of the hand right now, and I think that it makes more sense if we're seeing the back of the hand, but I know you're probably just creating these poses in a hurry. But really cool stuff. And when I watch it play, it plays pretty well. Yeah, really cool. Yeah, so let me know if you had any issues with the IKFK stuff. If there's anything I can help clear up, or maybe it just worked like you thought it would be, thought it should. Anyways, I'm gonna wrap it up here, and yeah, look forward to seeing your submission for next week for the run jump stuff. You can keep going on this if you want. Yeah, whatever you prefer. But yeah, the run jump. at least hit those notes, and let's bring it home, because this thing's really close, I think, to being amazing. I mean, it's already amazing, but you know what I'm saying, for being like potential like showpiece or whatever. All right, see you next week.